Liam and his younger brother were the children of high-ranking officials. Since he was a child, his brother had been obsessed with fighting him for the position of heir. As if stealing the love of their parents wasn't enough, he also took Liam's girlfriend, Sophie, away from him. But that's not all. In order to cut the root of the problem, he personally drove a big truck and rammed Liam, sending him flying about 300 meters. However, before he could even hit the ground, the next moment he found himself reborn on the day of his 14th birthday. At that moment, he was making a wish with his eyes closed. When he opened his eyes again, he was shocked to see his mom move to block him, telling his brother, Kai, to blow out his candles for him. Just as his mom was about to urge him to be the older brother and give way to his younger brother, no one expected this. Liam jumped up and threw the cake in his brother's face. I let you blow them out. Are you never going to live to see your own birthday? Before his brother could start crying, Liam threw himself to the ground, acting crazy. He crawled across the floor in a dark, twisted manner, grabbing his hair wildly, screaming, crying, doing push-ups, walking back and forth, howling like a ghost. His parents were stunned. His name was Liam, and he had been reborn at the age of 14. To summarize his past life in a few words, big victim. Before he was 10, he was a left-behind child. His parents worked in the city while he lived in the countryside with his grandparents. They were old and wanted to enjoy their retirement, so they didn't think much of him. In those days, he had no one to love or care for him. He kept telling himself that only kindness would earn love, and that if he repaid resentment with kindness, he would earn respect from others. So he often hurt himself to benefit others. When he was 10, his parents brought him to the city, and suddenly he found out that he had an 8-year-old brother. The next few years of his absurd life taught him one thing. Endure for a moment, and things will seem peaceful, but take a step back, and people will take advantage of you. No one respects someone who doesn't even respect themselves. Of course, the aftermath of smashing the cake was his dad grabbing him and giving him a slap across the face. Then he gave him a proper beating. As he was being hit, he cried and wailed, venting all the humiliation he had suffered until now. He shouted, "You're biased toward my brother. The three of you are the real family. If that's the case, why didn't you just strangle me at birth? Go ahead and beat me to death. If you kill me, you'll go to jail, and in my next life, I'll be your father. Then I'll be biased too, and I'll make sure you never even get the chance to exist." His dad was so furious that he looked like a demon, veins bulging on his forehead. His mom looked at him with disappointment and frowned. "How did you turn out like this?" Hilarious. She had always looked at him with disappointment. He had grown immune to it. He even gave her a smile that said, "I'll do it again next time." The next day, he deliberately wore a thick coat to school. It was autumn, and his classmates were all wearing long-sleeve shirts, but he wrapped himself in a winter jacket, sweating profusely in class. His homeroom teacher walked up to him and told him to take off his coat. Watching him sweat so much was making her uncomfortable. He sniffled softly, pretending to be deeply aggrieved, and slowly took off his coat, revealing his arms covered in bruises. The teacher called the police immediately. He swore he would study hard and repay his teacher's kindness. To be honest, it was divine intervention. His dad was a government official, a man who cared a lot about his public image, so Liam wasn't worried in the slightest that he would abandon him. He probably wouldn't dare beat him to death either. All he wanted was fairness. Since no one was going to give it to him, he would take it himself. On the weekend, his mom took his brother to the mall while he was locked up at home. Before leaving, she told him to reflect on all the inhuman things he had done recently. She said, "Your dad is a deputy director now, and this is a crucial time for his promotion. Do you realize you might become a stain on his record? If I had known you'd turn out like this, I wouldn't have given birth to you at all." His mom spoke with a look of utter disgust. His brother hid behind her, making faces at him. He sat in his room for a while, and suddenly remembered in his past life, he had been a child everyone praised as obedient. "They fed on me, drained my blood, devoured my flesh, took everything from me, and then told me, 'You are such a good child.' So is that it? A child who doesn't make a fuss doesn't get any candy? If that's the case, then I won't just make a fuss. I'll crawl in the dark, pull my hair, pick my nose, dig at my eyeballs, climb a tree, scream like a monkey, jump into the water, and shriek at the top of my lungs." He tore down his window curtain, cut it into strips, and tied them together. One end was secured to the windowsill, and the other was tied around his body. His family lived on the third floor, not too high, but standing on the windowsill still made him dizzy for a second. He carefully stepped out with one foot. Immediately, he heard screams from below. "Kid, what are you doing? That's too dangerous. Get back inside." This was the government compound, the place where he had grown up, and today, Liam was going to make sure his whole family lost their dignity. He let the rope slip down little by little. Just as the panicked onlookers were about to call the police, he had already landed safely. The people watching him were frantic, but he simply said, "Don't worry, everyone. I've just been locked up at home for too long. I'm just stepping out to get some fresh air." He forced a brave smile. Although his family lived in the government compound, his parents actually owned multiple properties, mansions, luxury apartments, you name it, and that brings us to his complicated family background. His father was a golden phoenix who had flown out of the countryside, the only college graduate from his village in his generation. After graduating, he landed a government job and climbed the ranks for over a decade. Now he was the second in command at his bureau, but his father wanted both power and wealth, so he had his mother quit her job and run a business under her name. His political career kept advancing, and the money kept pouring in. Unfortunately, he ended up with a son like him. What bad luck. The people in the compound respected his dad, so they didn't make a big fuss over his little stunt, but behind closed doors, they were all gossiping, and his dad, he gave him another brutal beating. This time he really went all out, hitting him as if he wanted him dead. Halfway through, Liam suddenly muttered, "Dad, have you even eaten today?" He froze. Then his face turned beet red, like an enraged bull. He charged at him again. Liam quickly dodged and dashed toward the window, throwing it open and shouting, "Help! Domestic violence! My dad is going to beat me to death." His mom panicked and yanked him back, covering his mouth before slamming the window shut. He grinned and said, "Go ahead and kill me. Tomorrow you'll be on the front page, and I'll be 6 feet under. I've already thought of the perfect headline for you." Shocking. Deputy Director of Bureau caught driving his own son to death. A story of morality and human depravity. His dad was smart. If he weren't, he wouldn't have been the only one from his village to make it into college. He forced himself to calm down and plopped onto the sofa. Then he asked, "All right, what do you want? You wouldn't be making such a scene if you didn't have a demand." He lit a cigarette. Liam said, "Put the cigarette out." His hand trembled slightly. "You little brat, do you think?" Liam cut him off. "Think carefully before you speak." He folded his arms and looked down at him. His dad gritted his teeth and threatened, "Do you believe I won't send you to a mental hospital?" Liam let out a cold chuckle. Deputy Director Chun, raising a lunatic for a son? A dragon begets a dragon, a phoenix begets a phoenix. If I'm a madman, what does that make you? His dad stubbed out his cigarette in the ashtray and said, "You don't have to be my son." Liam looked at him as if he were an idiot. "Seriously? You're willing to raise someone else's kid just like that?" He paused for a moment. Then he lowered his head and fell silent. Liam smirked. "David, you have to understand, I'm not exactly thrilled to be your son either. So, how about we make a deal?" At the age of 15, Liam finally managed to transform into the bully everyone in his family feared. Sometimes when his brother, Kai, snatched things from him, his mom would take them back and toss them to Liam, saying, "Why are you taking his things? Do you want me to buy them for you?" There was no love, but there was no harm either. That was enough. One evening, Kai said to him, "Bro, I really pity you. What's the point of defying mom and dad? You won't get a single cent of the family inheritance." Liam kept his eyes on the book, choosing to ignore him, but he just couldn't stop gloating. He laughed. "Liam, what are you pretending for? Mom, Dad, and I are a family of 3. This home will never welcome you. If you're smart, you'll leave when you're an adult. I might even convince Mom and Dad to give you a few thousand." Liam threw the book at him, hitting him square on the forehead. "Brother," he cried out with a broken heart, "why are you hitting yourself with the book on your head? If I've really done something wrong, then may heaven punish me. But don't hurt my innocent little brother. This morning, I only had soy milk for breakfast, not even a bite of meat. Doing good deeds," he yelled, then started banging his head on the floor in a strange way, crawling, picking his nose, and rubbing it on his brother. He cried, "Brother, how could I live without you?" Kai screamed, "No, don't come any closer." After the middle school entrance exams, Liam got into the best high school in the city. His dad wanted to throw him an entrance celebration banquet, but Liam immediately flipped the table. He said, "Don't bother." Short and to the point. Last time, he had invited his leaders and business partners, throwing a grand party. Then he made Liam toast each and every leader or business partner who had helped him with liquor. At just 15, he ended up vomiting nonstop, and it took him weeks to recover. This time, his dad thought he would lick up to those leaders. Dream on. His dad's lips trembled, and he said, "Fine, we won't have it. Just don't lose your mind." Liam returned him a cold, sinister smile and started packing his things. His parents exchanged a glance. Men suddenly became overly considerate, packing his stuff for him. They said, "Are you going to board school? Do you need anything? We'll buy it for you." Liam looked at them confused and said, "Boarding school? I already donated all my middle school stuff." His dad asked, "Donated what?" "Organize your notes. I'll give them to Section Chief Lee's son. He's taking the exams next year." Liam forced a smile and replied, "You really know how to handle things." But he didn't refuse. Even though he had been hit earlier, he still remembered he was his dad, and in his own way, he appreciated that he cared somewhat. He said, "I've packed them up already. Here, take them. Send them over." He handed him a set of beautifully organized study notes. The handwriting was neat, and everything was well organized. His dad was ecstatic, his nostrils flaring as he gasped with excitement. He said, "You're such a good son. It was worth all the pain. Your mom. Hurry up and buy some nice clothes for him. We can't let him look too shabby when he starts high school." He puffed up with pride, looking like a rooster that had just won a fight. Liam slipped a few notes between the pages of the study material. His dad's personal story, the tale of a man who had crawled out of a rural village and changed his fate. He hoped it could give hope and direction to kids in mountainous regions. To be fair, his dad was a bit inspirational. In his past life, Liam also entered this top school, but he was barely scraping by. This time, his grades were good, and he made it into the best class. On the first day of school, his dad couldn't keep up his low-profile act. He drove him to registration in their best car. He strutted in, wanting everyone to know that his son had entered as the top student in the district. As Liam stepped into class, he suddenly remembered that Sophie was in this class. Sophie was Kai's childhood friend, well, more his friend than Liam's. She had been his girlfriend in his past life, and also the one who betrayed him most. He arrived a little late, and there were only 2 empty seats left, one by the trash can and one next to Sophie. He chose to sit by the trash can. After all, trash belongs in the trash, and Sophie was placed on display for all to see. "Hi, I'm your new desk partner," he said cheerfully to the girl next to him. She didn't even glance at him, coldly lifting her head to look out the window. He tidied up his desk, then took out his books and began wrapping them with book covers. In his past life, he was careless with his studies. His books and papers were all tattered. This time, he was determined to be a good student. It started with respecting the books. When you respect them, they'll respect you in return. So he wrapped them tightly and carefully flipped through them. But the next second, he heard a haughty voice from the girl beside him. "Humph, you really know how to act. What do you think this is, an antique?" He was speechless. The first class was homeroom, and the teacher asked everyone to introduce themselves, starting from the first row, along with their hobbies. He thought for a moment. He wanted to say, "My name is Liam and my hobby is going crazy," but no, that would be too flashy. He came here to study, not to attract attention. To his surprise, his female desk partner stood up, flipped her long hair, and said, "Hi, everyone. My name is Eliza. I'm the chosen one of magic. My right eye holds the power of magic, and my dream is to become the queen of the night." He was stunned. Boom. The class erupted. In the next second, he stood up and said, "My name is Liam, and my dream is to become my dad's father." The class was shocked. Right after that, someone else chimed in, "My name is Maria, and my dream is to become a slipper, the one my mom hits me with." "My name is Susan, and my dream is to become a princess." With Eliza, the Chinibyo girls' wild imagination leading the way, whatever nonsense they said afterward seemed trivial by comparison. When it was Sophie's turn, her voice was gentle with a slight smile as she said, "My name is Sophie, and my dream is to open a small store and take care of lots of stray cats and dogs." He was a bit surprised. He didn't expect her to have such a dream. Thanks to Eliza, the Chinibyo girl, our class got along quite well. That day would remain in their memories, shining like stars in the sky. In the blink of an eye, he was in his senior year of high school. Over these 2 years, Sophie and he had kept a tacit distance. She was a reserved and introverted person. In his past life, they had been ambiguous for 2 years, and it wasn't until his senior year that he mustered the courage to confess to her, and they finally got together. But only a few days later, Kai inserted himself into their relationship, and it became a trio. Relying on his easygoing nature and with his parents constantly reminding him, he became practically Kai's servant, and he always felt that as the older brother, it was his responsibility to take care of him. Somehow, he developed a strange sense of duty. Though looking back, taking care of Kai was never really his responsibility. He was just a kid himself. The past is too painful to recall. In this life, he wanted nothing to do with either of them. All he cared about was studying. Whoever disturbed his studies, he would bite back. Coincidentally, in these 3 years, he always sat next to Eliza. She was the strangest girl he'd ever met. During class, she would rest her chin in her hand, gazing out the window, lost in thought. During study periods, she would pass notes to the person in front of her, gossiping about which boy from which class was the most handsome. After class, she would act up again. Eliza would shout, "Oh, it hurts. My right arm hurts so much. Is the magic seal about to be broken? Let me try?" Magic girl awakening, transformation. He was speechless. He was extremely speechless. She had probably gotten numb from holding that pose for too long. He asked in confusion, "Eliza, why is it that a Chinibyo girl like you studies so well? You're always ranked first in every exam." She rolled her eyes and said, "What Chinibyo? Don't spread rumors and ruin my image as a cold, goddess-like figure." He was speechless. When he ignored her, she leaned in again and said, "Above science, there is magic. If you don't master science, how can you delve into the magical world?" He stared at her, completely confused, and asked, "What magical world are you trying to explore?" Eliza lowered her gaze, her cheeks turning pink. She whispered, "For example, is love just the eruption of hormones, or is it the attraction of some unknown magical force?" Since he didn't want to waste time commuting between school and home, he started staying at the dorms in his senior year. If he could, he would have even slept in the classroom. His brain just isn't that smart, and even with all the effort and buffs from 2 lifetimes, he could barely stay in the top 5 of his class. In this elite class, there are those who are both smart and hardworking, and there are those who don't study at all but still come in first place, the so-called geniuses. But most of them are like him, average talent, putting in all their effort to keep up. It was a rare weekend, and he planned to head home. First, he needed to throw his dirty clothes and socks in the washing machine. Second, he needed to go home to let off some steam and relax. Driving at 70 miles per hour, he was in a good mood. The first person he saw when he got home was Kai, sitting on the couch watching TV. He glanced at him and said, "Long time no see." Liam couldn't be bothered to waste words with him. He wasn't worth it. Acting like a vegetable, if I scolded him, he probably wouldn't even react. He continued, "Mom and Dad are out." Kai said this with a grin. What a pity. When he got to his room, he noticed there were a lot of things that didn't belong to him. There were Kai's comic books in his bookshelf, his pillow and blankets on his bed, and his scattered clothes all over the place. On the desk was his game console. Seriously? At this moment, he really wanted to poop on his bed and let him experience what it's like to be disgusted, but he was a civilized person. He couldn't do that. He stormed out of his room and grabbed Kai by the collar, slapping him twice. He gritted his teeth and said, "Kai, why do you like taking other people's stuff so much? Even pork prices are going up, and you're just getting cheaper and cheaper. Don't you know when to stop being so disgusting?" Kai yelled, "Big brother, please. I won't do it again." Something wasn't right. This wasn't the kind of spoiled rich kid who would say such things, unless there was someone else around. He turned around and saw Sophie staring at him with wide, innocent eyes. "Kai, you're really something," she frowned and said. "Liam, I didn't expect you to be like this." Sophie looked at him with disappointment in her eyes. He calmly picked up his phone and dialed the number of someone saved as source of happiness in his contacts. "Hey, Dad, Kai brought a girl home. Kai is dating early," he said, then quickly snapped a picture of the two of them, practically glued together. He looked at Sophie, his expression even more disappointed than hers, and said, "Aren't you ashamed? You're just a little girl, and you're doing this with my brother." Sigh. He sighed heavily. Kai gritted his teeth and said, "What nonsense are you talking? Sophie and I are innocent." Liam said, "Then swear it. Swear that if you're really with Sophie, you'll never have peace." He kept stoking the flames. After all, he was a madman, and anything a madman says is normal. Of course, Kai didn't dare swear. He stood there completely speechless. Sophie frowned and said, "Liam, you don't need to be so aggressive. After all these years, you've really changed. The boy who was once approachable and gentle. I'll just pretend I never knew him." He lowered his head and took 3 seconds to mourn for his pitiful past life. Then he turned and left. Arguing with them was pointless, and it's not healthy to debate with 2 people at once. It causes mental exhaustion. But his room is his domain. He slammed Kai's game console and notebook, then tore up his blankets. He said, "If your stuff ever enters my room again, this will be its fate. And that goes for you, too." He threw the torn pieces out of his room. That night, he didn't return to school. He stayed home, not for any special reason, just to wait for his dear parents. At 6 o'clock, they came back, holding plenty of shopping bags, obviously from a trip to the mall. Kai rushed out of his room, acting very considerate, and took all the shopping bags. Liam sat at the dining table, watching his somewhat embarrassed mom, and said, "What are you standing around for? Go cook." His dad, seemingly a little scared, took a step back. He gestured to him with his head and said, "You're not off the hook, either. Go slice some fruit for me." After a pause, he continued, "By the way, Kai, I heard from your homeroom teacher that you were near the bottom of your class in the recent monthly exam. What's going on? Did you start dating and became a simp?" Kai glared at him with anger, but he didn't dare move with the 2 slap marks on his face. Liam said, "Go ahead and bring the things Mom and Dad bought you to my room. I'll try them out first." He shamelessly added. Kai gritted his teeth and said, "Those are for me from Mom and Dad." Liam sighed and said, "How can you be so inconsiderate? I'm older than you. Good things should come to me first, don't you understand? The eldest brother is like a father, right? Director Chen, is this how you educate your son?" His dad hesitated but finally said, "Give it to him. I'll buy you new things tomorrow." Liam replied, "Send me the new stuff too. Have it shipped to school." The next day, he slept in for the first time in ages. When he woke up, he found the house empty. Mom had gone to the office, and Dad had dropped Kai off at school before heading to work himself. He opened the fridge only to find it completely empty. He looked at himself in the mirror and muttered, "Forget it. I'm used to it." As he opened the door, he suddenly saw a car parked not far away. Eliza poked her head out from the window and cheerfully shouted, "Liam, are you off to school?" Perhaps because the sunlight was too harsh, his eyes started to sting. Eliza stopped him from putting his suitcase down, saying she needed to test something. She said, "This morning I woke up and my scalp was itching like I was growing a brain. I have a feeling I've evolved. Maybe I can move things with my mind now." She refused help from the driver and him, easily lifting the suitcase herself and placing it in the car. She looked at him with sparkling eyes. "See? I told you. I didn't even use any strength. That big suitcase. All moved with telekinesis." He didn't feel like responding. The suitcase was empty, just a shell. She then asked, "Hey, have you had breakfast?" He shook his head. With her sparkling eyes again, she asked, "Then how about trying this magic wrap?" She looked at him eagerly. He was so hungry he grabbed the wrap and took a big bite. She stared at him in surprise and said, "You can do magic too. Why did it disappear right after you took it?" He didn't know what to say, so he ignored her. The wrap was delicious, warm, and if he could, he would have asked for more. Then in the next second, he accidentally let out a loud fart. A strange smell filled the air. Eliza looked at him curiously and asked, "You're here to shit, right?" The driver in the front seat suddenly coughed loudly and dryly said, "Young lady, if we can't have a proper conversation, let's not talk at all." The college entrance exams were drawing near, and he stayed at school, not going home for weekends. He spent all his time drilling through practice questions. Eliza also applied to stay at the school, and the Chinibyo girl finally seemed to be getting serious about her studies. The atmosphere in the class was tense. As the top school in the city, best class, everyone was pushing themselves to surpass others. The countdown to the exam was just one day. He checked into a hotel. Eliza was picked up by her family, but in the afternoon, she came back, bringing her whole family to stay in the suite next to his. During dinner, they bumped into each other, and she called out cheerfully, "What a coincidence, Liam." On the first day of the exam, he opened the door and saw Eliza grinning at him. She winked and said, "Did you bring your ID and exam ticket? Let's go together." After the college entrance exam, he felt like he did well, but now he was about to turn 18, and his family no longer had the obligation to support him. It was time for him to find a way to support himself. He planned to work a summer job, maybe do some tutoring to earn money. Coincidentally, a publishing house contacted him, saying they wanted to buy his notes from the past 3 years of high school to publish them as a study guide. It was a decent amount of money, and if he saved carefully, it could even cover his university tuition. The editor mentioned they had originally contacted their school's campus beauty, Eliza, but she told them she had magically recorded everything and didn't have any notes, so she recommended him instead. Such a benefactor. After the exams, he stayed at home, eating and drinking, waiting for his adulthood. In his previous life, his comingafage ceremony had been an utter disaster. His dad threw a grand banquet for him, inviting local dignitaries and powerful figures from the political and business world. During the banquet, his dad made him toast everyone, from the highest ranking to the lowest, from the oldest to the youngest. Some kind-hearted people advised his dad, saying, "Don't make him drink too much, he's just a kid." His dad smiled widely and replied, "What's there to be afraid of? He's an adult now, a real man. How can he not drink?" Liam started to feel dizzy from the alcohol and instinctively looked for Sophie. She was surrounded by a group of rich second-generation kids with Kai standing next to her. They were all laughing. One rich kid with a mischievous grin asked her, "Sophie, describe your boyfriend in 3 words." Sophie, as if she had lost a game of truth or dare, pouted and waved her hand, saying, "Black, short, strong." Liam was speechless. The rich kid leered and asked, "Where's he black? Where's he short? In what way is he strong?" "His skin's dark, he's short, and his wrist is strong." When the exam results came out, Liam received a call from the top school in the province, ranking 9th overall. The class chat had already exploded. The top spot naturally went to the Chinibyo girl, Eliza, but as the dark horse of the year, Liam had claimed 2nd place in the class and 9th in the province. Their class teacher went wild in the chat, posting nonstop, "If you put in the effort, it really pays off." The teacher wrote a small essay in the group. "I was honestly a bit worried about Liam's mental state. He seemed obsessed, and I didn't dare to intervene. Thankfully, it all turned out well. 2 of our class made it into the provincial top 10, and I'm going down in history." The teacher asked in the group, "Do you think the school will make a plaque for me? Or even a statue? What pose should I strike?" Honestly, the one who should be worried about their mental state was him. While everyone was congratulating Eliza for ranking 1st in the province, Eliza, being her usual self, arrogantly said, "We should congratulate Liam instead. As a mere mortal, I would call him the strongest." It seemed Eliza had gotten some special membership or red and blue diamonds, as her messages were always accompanied by flashy effects. She managed to shift everyone's focus onto him. Liam quickly messaged her privately, "Shut up, Eliza." Eliza sent a rolling eyes emoji and replied, "Mortal, come down here. Come down." He instinctively glanced down toward their building. A car was parked downstairs. He hurried downstairs, but his parents stopped him. His dad, David, asked, "Where are you going, son?" Liam casually replied, "To the crematorium." His parents' faces immediately darkened. "Why to the crematorium?" "To bury my lost youth." His dad rubbed his hands together. "It's too late. It's not safe to go there. You're a student at a top university now. Let me drive you." Liam widened his eyes and clapped his hands dramatically. "Oh my God, my Holy Mary. Can I ride in your prestigious car?" "No way, no way. That's Kai's exclusive ride. I'm afraid I might get hemorrhoids if I sit there." "Good heavens. I've never even ridden in my own father's car." His dad turned pale. Liam bypassed him and ran downstairs. Eliza was waiting for him downstairs, and she anxiously asked about his college applications. He shrugged and said, "I'm going with the flow. I haven't decided what I want to study yet." At an age when he had nothing, it was irrational to decide on a lifelong path based solely on test scores. He asked, "What about you? What are you planning to study?" Eliza bit her lip and replied, "You know my family's in the capital and in business. My dad wants me to help my older brother or my future in-laws, so he wants me to study finance or management." He patted her head and said with a smile, You seem to have grown up suddenly. She gave him a serious look and said, "Don't touch my head. Only husbands are allowed to do that." Then she rubbed her hair against his fingers. He quickly withdrew his hand, trying to cover up the awkwardness. "So what do you want to study?" Eliza fell into deep thought. "I want to study medicine to explore the miracles of the human body." He nodded. "Okay, decided. I'll study medicine." Eliza panicked, her cheeks turning red. "Why? Why? You, what do you mean? You don't have to do this because of me." He chuckled. "I think I'm pretty suited for studying medicine. It fits my personality. I made my decision. If he didn't go crazy, he'd be perfectly normal." It seemed like a good fit for him. His parents started to show him a lot of attention, but he had already outgrown that phase. His dad, David, said, "Well, tomorrow you'll be an adult. I feel like I've failed you a bit over the years. How about I throw you a grand Kamingafich party? We can call it even on all our father-son grievances." Liam replied, "No thanks." He didn't expect him to be so resistant. His dad said, "I'm doing this for your own good, Liam. You don't think that just because you've gotten into college, your life is going to be smooth sailing, do you?" His dad relaxed and sat down on the sofa. He continued, "There was a time I thought that if I got into university, I could change my fate. But the college entrance exam is just an insignificant starting point in life. They called me a phoenix man and a toad, but I studied like crazy, thinking I could reach Rome. I didn't realize that some people are born in Rome. Even if I got there, I'd still be one of the lowest. You think you can leave me behind and have dignity and respect?" His eyes were full of mockery, like he had figured out the rules of the world. But to Liam, his words were nothing but old cliches. He remained calm and said, "You helped me? What exactly did you help me with?" "Help me become one of the lowest in Rome too, and just be at other people's disposal?" David lit a cigarette and said, "No, you can stand on my shoulders and see the world. After all, you're my only son." Liam froze. What did he mean by that? He said, "Kai is adopted. His father was an old colleague of mine. Do you know how much adopting him has benefited me? Everyone praises me as someone who values loyalty, and my career has gone smoothly beyond belief." David took a drag, and in the swirling smoke, Liam could barely see his face. He scoffed, "You're pathetic." He left without saying another word. Pathetic, really pathetic, he thought. He had thought David was just biased toward his brother, but he was even more despicable than he imagined. Everyone called him crazy, but it was clear David was the crazy one. In his past life, he had indulged Kai without any boundaries, raising him into the arrogant person he was. When Kai found out Liam was with Sophie, he started sabotaging him, and Sophie, with her so-called kind heart, was nothing more than a saint-like figure, easily manipulated. Kai feigned a terminal illness and tricked her into becoming his girlfriend. Liam, betrayed by both his brother and his girlfriend, failed the college entrance exam and ended up at a regular university. He told himself to stay away from both of them as far as possible, but Kai kept showing off, deliberately trying to hurt him. At 18, just having become an adult, he had never been treated kindly. How could he possibly know how to treat himself with kindness? He fell into depression, but he didn't give up hope. He cooperated with the treatment until one day, Sophie came to him, holding his medical records and crying. She choked up and said, "I'm so sorry. I didn't realize how much I'd hurt you." Look at her, always the picture of a saint, always so soft-hearted. It was almost sickening. Sophie broke up with Kai, and then Kai went mad. He personally drove a car and killed Liam. The last image he saw before he was reborn was Kai's crazed, malicious smile. The Kamingafich ceremony was held as planned. David thought Liam had given in. He was certain that as his son, he should be like him, ruthless and ready to climb to the top by any means. Unfortunately, Liam was never like that. Almost all the local elites were in attendance. Eliza's family was from the capital, so they weren't on the guest list. However, as his friend, he did send her an invitation. David was all about the bottom line and allowed Liam to invite only 2 people. The rest of the spots were reserved for his own connections. After some pleasantries, David stepped up to the stage and said, "Welcome everyone to my son's Kamingafich ceremony. Actually, today is also his graduation celebration." A round of praise echoed from the crowd. Vice Director David really knows how to raise a child. Such excellent academic performance. David nodded at him, signaling him to come up and say a few words. Liam mouthed back at him, "Go to hell." David gritted his teeth and said, I hope you all eat and drink well. He thought he could make him compromise, but that was impossible. Liam would never compromise. A few days ago, he pretended to be meek to trick him into letting him transfer his household registration to the school. Now that he had gotten what he wanted, David couldn't touch him anymore. Liam wandered around the venue, grabbing a bite to eat, but when he turned around, he saw Eliza standing in front of him, wearing an ice blue satin gown. Her makeup was flawless, her figure tall and slender, radiating a soft, luminous aura. She caught him off guard, leaving him speechless. After a long pause, he finally managed to say, You look amazing today." Eliza lowered her head, nervously tugging at the hem of her skirt, and softly replied, "Thank you. You look great too." He said, "Don't pull at it. Your dress will wrinkle." They stared at each other for a moment. He was transported back to the first time they met. She had looked at him with a cold sneer and said, "You really can pretend. Do you think you're some antique painting?" Her slightly immature face, then, and her face today overlapped, and he realized they had known each other for 3 years now. Back then, she wore a ponytail, he had a buzz cut, and they both bundled themselves up in oversized school uniforms. Now, his hair was neat, her makeup flawless, both of them wrapped in the elegant exterior of adulthood, yet looking at each other with the same pure eyes as before. Eliza lowered her gaze and quietly said, "Tomorrow, I'm leaving. Going back to the capital." She paused, then cautiously asked, "Would you like to come with me? You can take a look at the school and stuff." He immediately replied, "Sure. I'll make the world my home. I'll go wherever I want." Her eyes sparkled, and she said, "It's a deal. Then I'll come find you tomorrow, and from now on, you have to take care of me. No, I mean, you have to look after me more." A mischievous thought crossed his mind, and he leaned closer, asking, "How do you want me to take care of you?" Eliza's face flushed red, and beneath her fitted dress, her long legs were barely visible. She replied, "Give me money, and you can support me." He pretended to sigh in disappointment, saying, "So, taking care of you means hiring me to work for you? Good thing I didn't confess, or this would be so awkward." Eliza's face turned bright red, and she hurriedly said, "Hurry up and confess. It's not a work relationship." He poked her cheek and asked, "Then, Miss Eliza, would you like to be my girlfriend?" She eagerly threw herself into his arms and replied, "I will." Some are happy, some are sad. On one side, Eliza's eyes sparkled at him like they could string the air together, while on the other side, Kai was kneeling in the corridor outside the banquet hall, confessing to Sophie. "I really like you, Sophie. Will you be my girlfriend?" Seeing Sophie remain silent, he even began to shed tears. Sophie, with a pout, helplessly said, "Kai, I only see you as a good friend." After the banquet, Liam went home to pack. Besides 2 sets of personal clothing, he took nothing. Everything he had used or eaten at the David family's house, he would pay back in the future. He opened the door, and in the dim moonlight, he saw Kai sitting on the couch, flipping coins. The coins scattered all over the floor, none of them caught. Not even bothering to turn on the lights to do this, really typical of him. He spoke, his voice like a ghost's, startling Liam. "You think you're so proud, huh?" He continued, "You must have known by now, I'm not your parents' real son. So what, Liam? I've enjoyed the family love that should have been yours for so many years. Are you jealous of me?" Liam warned, "If you're sick, don't come and show it in front of me." He laughed. "Oh, by the way, Liam, do you know what Sophie says about you?" "Haha. She says you're black, little, strong." Kai stood up, provoking him. "Everything you have will eventually be mine. Your real parents don't want you, so why would Sophie?" Liam grabbed his suitcase and said, "Ah, right. It's all yours. Take it all. Oh, and you wanted to put your stuff in my room, right? Go ahead, put whatever you want in there." Then, without a second glance, he left. He didn't want to spend another second in this house. Kai screamed, "Liam, you better die outside and never come back." Liam turned around and said, "Kai, you're really pathetic." The response he got was a fruit knife thrown in his direction. In a wild rage, he probably didn't even realize how accurate he was. It landed straight in his chest. Liam collapsed to the ground. When he opened his eyes again, he was in the hospital with his mom sitting by his bedside. He quickly touched his chest. Ah, no wound. He remembered he had put his word book in the chest pocket of his shirt. After so many years of studying, he had gotten used to carrying it there. He had even planned to continue competing in English at university. See, I told you, respect books and they'll respect you back. Liam, you're awake. His mom rushed to him, looking anxious. Quick, I'll get you some paper and a pen. You write a letter of forgiveness for Kai. Your dad sent him to the police station. And there you have it, his mom. He said flatly, sure, I'll write a letter of forgiveness. You can write a severance agreement. His mom shouted, you're so selfish. You weren't even hurt. It was your brother. Liam didn't respond, just laid back down. She yanked at his blanket, trying to get him to sit up. Though it was embarrassing, he was probably just too scared and fainted. Who wouldn't be afraid seeing a knife stuck in their chest? She said, Liam, I've raised you for 8 years. Is this how you repay me? You're a white-eyed wolf. He suddenly shot up, shaking his head like a maniac, shouting, I'm not listening. I'm not listening. You're not my mom. No real mom would act this way after her son nearly gets killed. You're Kai's mom. Dad said Kai was adopted, but actually, I'm the adopted one, right? He was losing it. She retorted, you're talking nonsense. Kai isn't adopted. He isn't. He's my real son. Since I was young, I put him in the countryside, and when he was 3, I brought him back. We've never been apart. He's my only son. He froze. Was she out of her mind? What kind of twisted things had she done? The next day, Liam was discharged from the hospital, and Kai was brought back home as well. He had become quieter, and so had Liam. David went to work, and it was just the two of them at home. He grabbed his suitcase and waved at them, goodbye. No. Bye, because he never wanted to see them again. He walked out the door, and the sun was shining brightly. Eliza stuck her head out of the car window and winked at him, waiting for him. His future, the one that truly belonged to him, was still ahead. Kai, when did I realize it? It was when I was 6 years old. I noticed that I didn't look like my parents. Some people said I wasn't their biological child. They looked at me with pity, saying that my father was a subordinate of my real father and that I was adopted. My dad, David, always looked at me from above, filled with compassion, while my mom gave me all her love, but she would look past me, always staring at someone else. When she looked at me, she would zone out and call me Liam. Later, she rarely mentioned Liam anymore. When she looked at me, all I saw was love. When I was 8, the real Liam came back. He was very dark, very thin, small, with cracked lips and rough hands. I was so much better than him. My parents must have loved me more. Yeah, all the best food and the fun things were mine. Whenever I wanted something, I would see Liam helplessly give it to me. Liam was unnecessary. This family didn't welcome him. I don't know when exactly, but the thought took root deep inside me. Mom spent more and more time looking at him, and Dad's gaze at him was filled with something almost like fireworks. Liam's personality was weak, easy to bully. When I turned 12, Liam suddenly changed, like a madman. I gloatingly watched him get beaten, his body covered in wounds, thinking to myself, the harder they beat him, the better. Kill him. I don't want this brother. But Dad didn't. Later, Liam got into a top university, and he was finally leaving. But why did he have to go to the same school as my goddess, the girl I'd liked since childhood? At Liam's comingafage ceremony, I confessed to Sophie. She replied, I like boys who are good at studying. I said, I will study hard. Will you be my girlfriend? I will work even harder. She shook her head and said, I only see you as a good friend. I asked if she liked Liam. She said yes. She said she liked how hardworking Liam was, how serious he was, how he expressed himself. I immediately started to play the victim, forcing out a few tears. I knew Sophie was a bit of a white lotus. As long as I showed her how pitiful I was, she'd give in to my request. But she pushed me away with disgust on her face and said, I used to think that one should be kind. I thought Liam and I were the same. People who aren't good at arguing, always pleasing others, so always suffering. But later, he showed me a radiant light, and I wanted to become like him. When I got home, I lost control. I threw whatever I had in my hand at Liam. I forgot I was holding a fruit knife. Luckily, Liam was fine. I hated him, but I didn't want him dead, as long as he didn't steal my things. The next day, Liam left, dragging his suitcase behind him. Dad said to me, once you're of age, you can leave too. His gaze at me was like he was looking at filth. Overnight, I lost everything. For the rest of my life, I never saw Liam again. At 18, I didn't get into university and was kicked out by my family. That's when I finally understood the hardships of life. Years later, I realized it was as if I had been the one stealing Liam's things. Those things were always his, and I was the thief. Kai's mother. My name is Eleanor, a girl who worked hard to get into college and became a teacher, hoping to change my fate. When I was 23, I met David, someone who, like me, had worked his way up. We got together and had a healthy, chubby boy. David asked me to quit my job, but I refused. I knew how hard I had worked for my position. I could give up my life, but not my job. I wanted to hire a maternity nurse. David refused. He said as just a clerk with so many eyes on him. How could he afford to hire someone? So we sent our son to the countryside. The day we left, my son cried so much it broke my heart, but I didn't look back. When he grew up, he would understand how much the success of his parents would benefit him. But what I didn't expect was that David brought home a baby, saying it was his colleague's child. His colleague and his wife had died in a car accident, leaving only the baby. David decided to adopt the child. I disagreed. I hadn't even raised my own son, so why should I raise someone else's? But this time, David gave me a satisfactory condition. He said he wanted to start a company, but his identity was special, so he wanted me to quit my job and take on a position in the company. I didn't understand all the intricacies. I knew he wouldn't harm me, nor would he dare to. I agreed, but I insisted that we bring back our son from the countryside. He refused again. He said, now that we had just adopted the child, the public would be watching, and there couldn't be any mistakes. He said, just wait a little longer. I'll be promoted to department head soon. He held me in his arms. I looked at the baby, but my heart was full of longing and guilt for my son. Eventually, the guilt overwhelmed me. I brainwashed myself, telling myself this baby was my son, my only son, and when my real son came back, I treated him like an intruder, like a villain. In the end, I forced my own son away. He left carrying a suitcase and said, somehow, I knew my most precious treasure was slipping away, but I couldn't find any reason to stop him. They say those in the thick of things are often confused. Bystanders see clearly. But when you're in the situation, you can never see what you really want. I always acted recklessly, like a broken pot. My mind was muddled. I've grown old. Every year, Liam sends me alimony, but he's never come back. David and I searched all over the capital, but we never found him. David and I tallied up our assets, keeping only what we needed for daily life. The rest was converted into money and sent to Liam, hoping he would at least meet us once. But he didn't take the money, and he didn't want us. David said his life had been a joke. He only wanted to climb up without scruples so his children wouldn't have to suffer. But in the end, he lost them both. If he could do it over again, he would never have adopted Kai. If I could do it over again, I would have treated my Liam well. I had so many chances to do right by him, but I missed every single one. My Liam, for the rest of my life, I never saw my Liam again. Eleanor. I live in the capital, and my parents were always busy with their business, so they didn't have time to pay attention to me. Because of that, I spent my childhood watching anime and reading novels, growing up to become a Chinibyo girl with magical powers. My parents found me too embarrassing, so they sent me to Province C for high school, a place with an excellent academic reputation. That's where I met the love of my life. On the first day of school, I bumped into a boy, free-spirited, cheerful, confident, and all-around attractive to me. But of course, Eleanor, the young lady, wasn't going to give my heart away so easily. I turned my head and ignored him. Then he started carefully wrapping his textbooks like he was a collector. I coldly, pretending to be all serious. What, you think these are antiques or something? And he didn't respond. Under my little scheme, he and I ended up sitting together for 3 years. There was a brief period when I changed seats, and a girl sat next to me for a while, but after I bombarded her with endless chit-chat, she couldn't take it anymore and begged the teacher to switch seats. Liam didn't mind that I was a Chinibyo girl. He didn't mind when I kept gossiping with him or when I slept with my head on his arm. He was really nice. But Liam's life wasn't easy. I knew no one ever came to his parent-teacher meetings. My parents flew all the way from the capital to attend mine, but his never came. He sat alone in his seat. Humph. I directly decided to make my mom his mom. My mom raised her eyebrows at me, then smiled at Liam and said, "Hey, kid, how about I come to your parent-teacher meeting? Let's practice, you can call me Mom." Liam looked a little dazed and hesitated before calling out Mom. I was so happy I almost jumped out of the window, rolled on the ground, and climbed up onto the podium to show off. After high school graduation, I finally became Liam's girlfriend and came to the capital with him. My dreams had come true, and I felt so happy, so incredibly happy. The only downside was that Liam was in medical school, and he was so busy that I rarely saw him. It was a little unfair. And there was another thing. This woman named Sophie always dressed to the nines, running to the medical school. I felt like slapping her. I didn't get what she was thinking. That's my husband. Does she think she can be a mistress? Doesn't she have a husband of her own? Oh, right, she doesn't. Sophie is such a pretentious coquette. It's disgusting. Liam and I got married right after our undergrad. At the wedding, Sophie took some unflattering photos of me. She even sent them to me, saying I looked like a chihuahua when I smiled.